Hello, I just want to show a demonstration of a problem I had on a real-world project last week, which was where Pandas, which is built on top of NumPy, it decides the data type when you import the data. So I had a CSV and I had a load of names and ID numbers, and when I was testing, I was using a truncated file. So I was working with only 10 example ID numbers, but when I was testing, I was just using it with this standard format that I'd been told about. So I was just using 8 digits, which worked fine. And then I was informed that occasionally you get old ID numbers which also have an alpha character in. So I just want to show you the difference. So when I was testing, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is some dummy data, but this will perfectly demonstrate the issue. So if I go to my code, I'm importing pandas, I'm importing the CSV, I'm creating a data frame, and then I'm looking through the data frame, and then I'm saying, fetch me the ID where the name in the row equals Luke. And if I print that, if I run the code, I'm going to see the data type as well. And as you can see, the data type is NumPy int 64. And the reason why that is because we've got a whole bunch of digits, no alphas. So we've got, effectively, when we look to process this further on in our code, we will be dealing with an int, which is good. However, for argument's sake, we've got an old ID number and they were preceded with, I'll say an X, doesn't matter. So all I've done there is I've changed one record. So if we'd had 100,000 records and they'd all been new, and we had one old one that had an alpha character in, when we run that with our code here, we're going to look for Luke again. So same code, different input CSV. Let's run it. And you can see we now have object string. So even though Luke is 11223344, because one row in our CSV has an alpha character, it then converts the whole column into a string. Now, this is something to watch out for because your code hasn't changed. All that's changed is one row in what could be hundreds of thousands of records is different, and that then makes your code work with a different data type. Now, why is that a problem? Well, I'll show you. Demonstrate, I'm going to write a new function. Let's just write it here. We'll test it and then we'll put it into our code. So ID equals, we're going to set it up as a string to start with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So then we're going to write a function to check if it has any letters. So if you look up on Stack Overflow, there's actually an example where it has letters. And I've pretty much modeled this function upon that. Let's just save it so that it formats as Python. Has underscore letters dot py. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say response equals, and then we're going to look. We want to say if there's more than 0 alphanumerics, then we want to return true. So length, we're going to look at the length, and then we need to do a generator, which is going to basically be process a list comprehension. So within that, I'm just going to say I, where I is our iterable for I in ID. So we're just going to iterate through all of our IDs. sorry, we're going to iterate through all of the characters in our ID, and then we're going to say override if not, and then we're going to use is digit. We could write this a more standard way, but this is a nice one-liner, so and it's not liking that. Is that too many? That's better. And let's say if response is greater than 0, so if it has an alpha character, then it will return true, because our function's called has letters, so we'll say if it has letters, it wants to return true. And what's going on here? There we go. And then we need to say else return false. Good. Right. So if we run that, let's just say x equals has letters. And we're just going to pass it ID, which will be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then let's just print x and see what we get. No closing parentheses. Where? Is it like that? Yeah. Right. Oh, and it's not liking the indentation. Let's just shift and tab that back one. Right. Sorry about that. Right, so now we have false. Let's just clear this output. It's looking a bit messy, isn't it? Right, run again. False. You see false? I have false because there are no letters in this string. And if I change this, it's still going to be a string, but has letters, now says true. So this is excellent because this is going to tell us whether a string has a number in it. And let's return to our original piece of code. And what we want to do is we want to use our has letters function. So let's just copy the function. I'm not going to import it, no need. And let's bunch all this up. And there we go, we'll put our function in there, has letters. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, we've got res here too many times already, haven't we? Let's resp. Run that again, just check I've not broken anything. Resp is not defined. Typo, sorry. Right, run that. Good. Okay, so at the moment it's an object. So if we run this again and change that, see what we get. Object, okay. Right, now if we run this through has letters, has underscore letters, and we're going to pass RESP to it, which is what we get back from our data frame. And answer equals, and then we'll do print answer. Run that. NumPy int64 object is not iterable. So why is that? That is because we've just got a whole list of integer values. If I change that one alpha character in here and then run it again, and now it works. So do you see how by having one alpha character in here, it then changes the data type, which then makes our function work. So you could have a perfectly well-written function called has letters, but if you're passing it a list of strictly integer values or int64 NumPy values, then you will get an error. So by changing this back. If I take the G out, so we've got all numeric IDs, run it again, we will most likely get an error. Yes, we do. So how do you solve that? Well, one way around it actually is to do something like this, so our response, and then we can put str in front, and that should solve it. So if we do that, run again, NumPy not iterable. So fix this. We need to, within our function, we need to ensure that the ID that we pass to it is always passed as a string. So we say for I, so that could be for character in character, character for character in the string ID, which is what you pass to it from your pandas data frame. You need to just say if not is digit, then return true, else return false. And we're saying the length, so what we're doing is we're counting. If there's 0, then it's false, so it has no letters. If it's more than 0, then there are more than one letters within your ID. So I hope that makes sense. There's only so many times I can describe it. It's kind of a thing that you would need to try out by yourself. Hopefully this code is big enough if you want to copy it. I'm not going to put it on GitHub because it kind of, yeah, the whole point is to try and run it yourself and work out what's going on. So I've got a function called hasLetters, and that's the original one, which I was just passing it ID. So within my CSV, I've currently got all integers. So if I run the code, it works. And the one that I'm looking for, I'm currently looking for Luke, and I'm trying to get his ID. So Luke is there, I'm getting his ID, and my function, which is looking to see if it has letters, is returning false because there are no letters in Luke's ID. If I change Luke's ID to have an X at the start, previously that would have broken my program, or it would have broken my function. However, it is now working, and also we are now getting true. So Luke X 11223344, we now know that it has one letter in it. Take the letter out, run it again, and it's false. False has letters in it, is false. It doesn't have any letters. So I hope that's at least highlighted something which you can then just remember in the future. When you import into Pandas, the data type that gets used depends on whether there are any letters or if it's just solely numeric values. So you could have, as I said, 100,000 rows, and if just one of them has a letter in it, it will become a string type, a string data type. So I hope that's been interesting. Have a play around with it, but just remember, your code, you may think your code's working and you'll be really happy with it, and then all of a sudden the customer may pass a CSV which is not just only numeric. They could say, oh, we've got some old ID numbers and they've got alphas, and you've tested the code and it works fine, but once they pass it an alpha character, then it breaks the whole thing. So if you remember what I did to fix it, I put string in front of the ID there because I need to convert it to a string within my list comprehension. So I've taken it out. If I run it again, and there you see there's the error. NumPy int64 object is not iterable because it still thinks it is an integer. So change it to a string and then we can iterate through it. So there we go, change it back, and all is well with the world. So thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting or you got totally confused, then drop me a comment and subscribe and thumbs up and all that usual stuff. So thanks for watching.